What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I just got back from watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and this is your spoiler review. If you do not want to be spoiled, please go over and check out my first video. I have put up a non-spoiler movie review for those of you who don't want to get spoiled. But for those of you who have already seen it and don't mind talking about it or don't mind a little spoilage, it is right here. So let's get into it. First of all, this movie was absolutely phenomenally made. I absolutely loved this movie. I am definitely a Spider-Man fan now. Not that I wasn't before, but after this movie, they did a great job. They did an absolute great job. Tom Holland did such an amazing job, as always, playing Peter Parker. But in this movie, he had some emotional parts, and he really played the hell out of those moments. And I mean, he really made you engaged in those moments with him. I mean, so let's start from the very beginning. So of course he gets exposed. So he is trying to hide. He is being followed by paparazzi everywhere. Eventually his apartment where he lives with his aunt gets surrounded by paparazzi, and they're trying to figure out what to do. So they end up finding him, and the cops, the FBI come, they take everybody down. They're being questioned, they're being threatened. Basically, they need to lawyer up because he killed Mysterio, and this whole thing, like, everybody's going down. So they're sitting at the table talking to a lawyer, which is ends up being none other than Daredevil. But he's not in full suit. He's got glasses, and he's in lawyer mode. But the crowd went crazy when they saw that. So they end up moving to Happy's apartment. So they end up hiding out there. Now, while Spider-Man is there, he ends up finding out that Happy still has Iron Man's machine that he used to help make Spider-Man's, well, not only Spider-Man, but the I forgot what it's called, but Happy kept it, so he has it in his apartment. So that is going to be used later on in the movie. So as they go on, they're trying to figure out how to just quiet all this down. And so him, MJ, Ned, they're all trying to get into college, and they're like, you know what, let's just try to figure out where we can go. We could all kind of be together and start over again, and just get away from everything. So because Spider-Man is having a bad rap right now, it's affecting everybody around him. So they don't get accepted to the college that they want, and he feels bad about it because he's like, they're affiliated with me. Nobody wants to accept them because they feel like, I'm a bad guy. So that's when he starts, that's when he gets the idea to go talk to Doctor Strange. Now he goes over to Doctor Strange, and he's having a conversation with him about trying to figure out how to reverse it so nobody knows it's him. So now they're in his dungeon or wherever he is doing this spell. So that's when Peter starts going into, well, I don't want everybody to forget who I am, So what we don't see in the trailer is that Doctor Strange has changed this spell more than once, and that is what causes it to go haywire, because he changes it 5 or 6 times because Peter's just running his mouth trying to, get him to pick and choose who forgets him and who doesn't. So it ends up just kind of getting put into this ball of a sort. And a little funny part that happens is that he says something to the effect of, Doctor Strange, he says, well, you could probably just call them and see if they can reinstate that. And Peter's like, I can do that. And Doctor Strange gets so upset. He's like, you came to me first before you called the school to see if they could reconsider your acceptance. He's like, I didn't know I can do that. So now he's just really upset. So they go out, and he gets a call. He gives out a call to the guy who, he's so annoying to me. He's the guy who acts like he really knows Peter Parker but doesn't. He wants to be his best friend, but he's not. He's like a bully, but not really. I forget his name. So he's an MIT at the college that they want to get into. So he makes a call to them and he's like, is there anybody who you can talk to? So basically he tells them who you can talk to. She's stuck in traffic. Now that's when we see in the trailers that Peter Parker goes running into traffic to go look for the woman who he needs to speak to try to get back into MIT. And that's when the fight breaks out with Doc Ock and him. So what's pretty cool about this part is that the fight scene, we see some of the fight scenes in the trailers, but there's more to it and it's pretty damn cool. So long story short with that, Doc Ock realizes that he's not Peter Parker. Now, Doc Ock does something to him to where his powers, or some of his powers, or his suit kind of overtakes his tentacles, and now they kind of start transforming, but Peter Parker still has control over it. So now he's controlling his tentacles and he's saving, the car that's flipped over the bridge. So they all get over the bridge, and at this point his spidey senses start tingling again, and of course here comes Green Goblin. So now he's just like, what is happening? I don't understand. So Green Goblin is almost like bipolar. Like he's run away and now he's like in, an alley, kind of like going through it, and he's staring at his mask and he smashes it and runs off. He ends up running into Aunt May at the restaurant. And he seems like he's a nice guy. Like he seems like he's okay, but he just he smashed his mask and he's no longer bad. That's what we think, right? So he helps them. He tries to kind of help him out, and he's like, all right, I don't, Peter Parker's already on edge, and he's just like, this isn't my problem. Like, it's not my problem to fix him. He needs to go back where he came from. So his aunt is insisting that this is his responsibility because he has a gift and he's called to a purpose and blah, 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 blah. So Peter's just still like, this is not my problem. But he's trying to help him anyway. So meanwhile, to kind of take it back a bit, Ned and MJ end up meeting Peter Parker at Doctor Strange's house. So they're trying to figure out who this Green Goblin guy is. But in there now they have Doc Ock locked up in this cage, not a cage, but it's almost like behind glass. And then they also have the lizard guy, I forgot his name. So then so then they're trying to figure everything out. So Doc Ock is in his like meanest form, trying to tell him like, get me out of here. You don't know what you're doing, basically. So after that, he's trying to go out to kind of find him to see if he can figure out who he is, and he runs into Electro. And then while he's fighting Electro, the Sandman comes out. Now he's got both of them trapped in Doctor Strange's dungeon. So then Doctor Strange comes out with this box, and he's just like, oh, you caught more. Well, we need to send them back to the universe. And they're like, no, maybe we can save their lives. They don't have to die, because if they go back, they die. And they're like, well, I ain't trying to die. So Spider-Man grabs the box, of course. He webs the box, grabs it, and that's when we see in the trailers that Doctor Strange is chasing him all over the place trying to get this box. So he has the box now because Peter has trapped Doctor Strange in his own warped world. So he gives the box to MJ and Ned and says, look, I don't want you guys with me. I want you guys safe. But if I don't come back, or if you don't hear from me, push this button so they can all go home. But I'm going to try to fix this. I'm going to try to save their lives. From there, things get really crazy. So, I'm sorry. So they all kind of, he brings all of them to Happy's apartment. So they're at Happy's apartment and he is trying to help all of them one by one. He opens up Iron Man's machine to kind of help them individually. So here is Green Goblin, who comes, he's a nice guy. So considering that he's a scientist, he's kind of helping Peter Parker put things together. So the first person he fixes is Doc Ock. So now Doc Ock is no longer a mean guy. He's the good guy. But that's where it stops, because Electro now has this thing on his chest that's going to try to take the electricity out of him so he could become a normal person again. But he's like, I don't like the way this feels. I don't like it. Like, he's got a little bad attitude about it. So once he finishes fixing Doc Ock, his spidey senses start going off and he's just like, something's not right. So he's kind of looking around because he senses that it's one of them. It's Green Goblin. Green Goblin is on his mean-ish to the T now. So now the fight breaks out. Everything's going crazy. Electro rips the thing off of him. They're all up and down the outside of the apartment. Mind you, at this point, the Daily Bugle is outside watching all of this because they're after Peter Parker. So Peter Parker is fighting, and he is going at it with Green Goblin. He is throwing these crazy hard punches that you are sitting there like, whoa. So this whole time that this fight is happening, Aunt May goes to the back and grabs this syringe of a sort to try to stab Green Goblin with it. So she's running off. Electro's messing around with the electricity, so she can't get down the elevator. So she's going down the stairs. So she sees at the end of this fight scene with Peter Parker and with Spider-Man and Green Goblin, they end up on the first floor. So she ends up coming up behind Green Goblin with this thing and stabs him in the neck, and it doesn't work. So now she's in front of them, facing them, and this thing explodes. He's got Spider-Man by the head. Spider-Man's like, just run. So the thing just explodes, or something falls on her. No, it's an explosion. So she like flies across the room. He's like fighting, and there's another, he's Green Goblin's getting ready to throw. He throws an explosion, and Spider-Man just gets up and just kind of moves it out the way, but it explodes anyway. So you see, him and Aunt May, and they're kind of like staggering around. They look for each other. And, Spider-Man is just like, this isn't my fight. Like, they need to go back home. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And she's like, no. She's like, you have a gift. And with that gift comes great responsibility. But she's starting to kind of teeter over, and she kind of faints. She's like, I just need to catch my breath. And he's like, it's okay. It's all right. It's all right. We're going to just call a doctor. You're going to be fine. But he kind of puts his hand underneath her, and there's blood, and he knows that she's just, now he's crying. This is the part that had me like in tears. And she unfortunately dies, and he's just like, look at me, move, like don't do this to me, just look at me. And he's trying to wake her up, and it is just so heartbreaking to see. And Happy shows up outside, and he's looking, and he sees that it's something's happening. So you've got snipers outside, and he gets out the car. They arrest him, and they're trying to shoot at Spider-Man. He runs off. And then MJ and Ned now are sitting there at the table with the box, and she's like, I'm about to push the button. And he's just like, I don't know if you should do that. Maybe we should wait. She's like, I don't know. Like, he told me to wait, but I don't know if I should. So I'm like, I just want to know where he is. So Ned is sitting there. Now, at this point, he's got Doctor Strange's ring on his hand. Even though he has it on his hand, he shouldn't be able to do anything. But they're sitting there, and he's like, oh, I wish I can see Peter. And stuff starts tingling in the corner of his house. So MJ's looking, and she's like, do that again. And he's like, I wish I could see Peter. And it starts tingling again. She's like, do it again. So he eventually ends up opening this warping thing, and Spider-Man comes in, but it's not our Spider-Man. It's Andrew Garfield. And the whole theater starts going crazy. And at one point, before he steps through, Tyrone is like, "That's not him. That's the other one." And that's when the theater starts going crazy. Tyrone had his moment. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. And there was a funny moment there where MJ didn't really believe him. And she's like, "We need to find him. Do it again." So they do it again, and Tobey Maguire comes out. And what's funny is that now Andrew Garfield comes out with his Spider-Man suit. Tobey Maguire comes in and he looks like a dad. Like, it's almost like he's retired and he looks a little aged, but he still looks good. So then the whole theater's going crazy again. So, that happens, and they're kind of having their bonding moment, and they're just like, talking amongst themselves. So he's basically like, "I feel like he needs me." So they end up finding our Peter Parker. And, he's really upset. He feels like it's his fault. So he's like, "You don't know what I'm going through." And they're all sharing their stories. Of course, what happened with Uncle Ben and what happened with MJ in the past and how they weren't able to save him. So they all kind of had that moment where they all lost someone and they couldn't all, agree to it. So they all get together to try to fight all these villains now, because now they're going haywire. So there's some funny moments in the movie, but sometimes you kind of felt like, all the Spider-Men had funny moments, but I feel like sometimes it was a bit too much. Like, they didn't have to push it like that. But so they end up getting together to try to fight them. And, a long story short, I didn't see any brand new suits. There wasn't, I don't know if there was talks about brand new suits of this movie, but there weren't any brand new suits. It was just their suits from their time, their universe, I should say. But they all had their funny moments. They did a great job. Like I said, those funny moments were a bit dragged out sometimes, but it still worked. It still definitely worked. So once they got together and they knew, what they needed to do, they went out looking for them. And when I tell you that epic scene with all three of them sitting on top of the statue and they were getting ready to fight, man, that was epic. And then when all three of them flew off of that and they were swinging, I mean, that was such an epic scene, you guys. Like, the whole theater was going absolutely bananas. They were losing their minds. It really was a great epic moment. So watching them fight together was really, really, really good. It was really, really nice. And there was another part that had me in tears. Like, I'm emotional just thinking about it now. So how Andrew Garfield's character, he couldn't save MJ. So that part in the trailer where we saw this MJ fall and this Spider-Man, Tom Holland, ran after her to try to catch her. He ends up getting hit and he can't save her. But then here comes Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and he catches her. And when he lands, she looks up at him and she's like, are you okay? And he looks at her and he's crying. And he can't even speak. He's just like, and that was such a touching moment in that movie, because it was like, man, I couldn't save my MJ, but I had to save you. And he saved her. Oh my gosh, my heartstrings are all over the place, y'all. So after that, they continue to fight, and there's what I think is an Easter egg. I may be wrong, but with Ned having that ring and being able to kind of do a little magic, I think that may be something there. But then as they're fighting everyone one by one, they take down Electro, and Electro is talking to one of the Spider-Man, and he's like, man, he's talking to him about being from Brooklyn and how he's like, man, like I thought you were black or something like that. And then he talks about how, man, there's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere. So that, my friends, to me is an Easter egg. They might be bringing Miles Morales. We don't know. That might be something, though. There might be something to that. He's like, it'd be nice. There's got to be a black Spider-Man out there. And we were like, aha. So after that, they're all fighting, and then things start happening where now all of the villains are like coming from all the universes. So, Doctor Strange shows up, and he's up there, and he's like, I can't control it. And so Spider-Man comes up, Tom Holland, he comes up and he's like, there's got to be something we can do. And I'm like, just do a new spell and just have everybody forget who I am. And he's like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, it can work, but are you sure you want to do that? He's like, yeah. So basically he's like, well, you need to go tell your goodbyes and that was kind of an emotional moment. So he goes and he has his little moment with the two other Spider-Man, and they understand, what's about to happen. And when he goes to MJ and Ned, they're having their moment, and he's like, look, you're going to forget who I am. And that was another third moment where my heartstrings were all over the place. And the way that he was saying goodbye to them, and the way that him and MJ were just she's just like, you come, and if you don't come find me, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to come find you, type of thing. And the emotions that they all had, I mean, you were grabbed at that moment. Your emotions were right there with them. Yeah, and then everything just kind of disappears, and it's very touching. It's very emotional. So of course now at this point, nobody knows anything. He goes on, Tom Holland as Peter Parker, he goes on about his life. Now he has a new apartment, and I sat there just kind of watching, and I'm like, man, like he's all alone now. Like he's got nobody. Yeah, and basically that's just kind of where it is. So he goes to find MJ, and she's at the same bakery, but she at the coffee place. But he notices that she has a Band-Aid above her eye, but he doesn't ask her what happens. He just asks her if she's okay. And she's like, it doesn't hurt anymore. And I almost wish that he would have asked her, well, what happened? Because I would have wanted to know how that would have unraveled, you know what I mean? But he goes on, and the movie, goes on. There's 2 end credit scenes, though. I don't know if I should tell you guys this. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I want to give you guys something to hold on to. But there's 2 end credit scenes. One of them, of course, goes back to Venom. We see Venom. He had just gotten, of course, to this bar or whatever. He's kind of like trying to figure out who everyone is, who's the Spider-Man guy and the guy with all the jewels, and he's drunk, and he goes away, but he leaves a little something behind. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Venom leaves a little something behind. That is going to be interesting. The second end credit scene is more like a trailer. So Doctor Strange is coming back. But it looks like he may have an evil twin of a sort or something, because it's going to turn ugly very quickly. Yeah, we're going to have to figure out and wait to see what happens with that. But it looked like a full-blown trailer. I haven't seen who he is. Maybe some of you may understand what's happening. I didn't, even though I saw the last Doctor Strange movie. I don't quite know. But I do know that something bad is going to happen. We shall see. But, oh man, I give this movie 5 out of 5 toodles, you guys. This was absolutely wonderfully made. I would absolutely pay to go see this again. We went to go see it in 4DX and 3D, although Tyrone and I both agree we didn't need it. We didn't need the 3D. We didn't need the 4DX experience. There's some movies that make it more exciting with it, but I feel like this movie was great on its own. It was just an extra bonus that we saw it in 4DX and 3D. There were certain parts with 3D that was like in your face, but I think it was a great movie without it. But yeah, there you guys have it. My spoiler review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you went to go see the movie, I hope you guys had a great time, because we definitely did. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of the movie and my review. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. Hit like, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you guys can get notified whenever I pop up on your feed. I apologize if I was all over the place, but my excitement got the best of me. I'll see you guys later. Toodles!